What's going on? Coach Luca here from Vigor Ground, and I wanted to shoot today's video because of so many inquiries from the outside, so outside of our gym, that ask all the time about getting hip mobility, or more so it's like this: hey, my low back is tight, I can't do this, I can't do that. Like, what's the best way to help me with that? What's the best way to open it up? Okay, so because of that, I'm putting together, or should I say put together, like the best exercises that we use in the gym, or should I say the kind of like the circuit of exercises we use here at Vigor to really open up the hips. Now, obviously, without having a, should I say, an individual analysis of somebody, it's hard to just say like everybody should be able to do this or whatnot. But this is a great, I would say, this will work for just about anybody. Let's just put it that way. So I've put together, like Jody, you had a limber 11. We're doing a Vigorous 13, so we're keeping it within the Vigor theme. But put it this way: these are the exercises that most people that come through to our gym will go through if they have, a lot of issues with not having hip mobility, having low back pain, not having glute activation, things like that. So this is, like I said, mostly hip-based. There are going to be some things here that are going to be a little bit outside the realm, and I'll explain why. Okay. But if every day you come in and you're doing these drills before you start your dynamic warm-ups and training sessions, you will see a really big improvement, period. Okay? So let's go right to it. Vigorous 13 coming up. All right, so we're going to start down on the ground with soft tissue work first. Now, obviously, why is this really important? Because we want to get those fibers moving a little better. We want to get the tension out of certain muscles. And, we've heard so much about how much soft tissue work can improve things. The thing is, right, whenever we do anything, we then have to add movement to it so we ingrain better movement. So I got 3 things here today. Rumble roller. You could have a regular, I would say a foam roller, but the rumble roller gets in, as you can see, a lot more. I got a tennis ball, which I would replace with a lacrosse ball, and then a rad ball, which is basically like 2 lacrosse balls stuck together. And I'll show you a little bit later why I really like these. All right, so first thing that we're going to start off with is just getting that IT band, right? So look, if you think about the outside of the quad, IT band goes up into this TFL. For most people, this is very, very, very tight, and just loosening it up here. Now, a couple of things, okay? Not moving too fast, okay? So you want to kind of go slower when you're rolling. And when you get to like what I really like to, when you get to certain spots that are tender, stop there, right? I like controlled breathing because most people will just tense up. So full breath out through the mouth, in through the nose. And if you can see my knee, I'll start bending it. Why? Because it's almost like a pin and stretch. So that muscle now is moving. This is not pleasant right now. And you can rotate a little bit, find different angles on those tender spots until they become less tender, right? And then keep moving forward. So you want to do about, I would say, just like around 10 runs, but on the 10 runs, you stop. For me, this is like a tender spot right here. Ooh, right? And then just start moving. It makes a big difference when you actually move it through the muscle, through the range of motion, and then if you're just rolling over it. All right, so, and you can go obviously all the way up to top high there to that TFL. The second one is also with the foam roller. The thing is, why I'm not the biggest fan of this is because it's tough to get into the adductors. So, we'd get an angle on this roller and basically lie, and you can see how I'm opening up to where I'm getting the adductors. Now, I can feel them here to a certain degree, and we do the same thing. We'd stop. We do full range of motion, bend the knee, go at different angles. So I'm getting in there to a certain degree, right? We'd roll same thing, controlled and slow. But what I prefer is actually sitting down, and this goes for the hamstring as well, on a box where you can take the lacrosse ball, tennis ball, right? Now I can really find the adductor. Oof, right? And gets nice and pleasant. So I'm just turning it to the inside. And you can do a couple of things here, right? I can actually roll on it, or I can extend, and then it's rolling over that ball. So with the rad ball, obviously, or if it was just one lacrosse ball, same thing, right? More pressure, more tension, definitely feeling that, right? So from here, I can either roll and get into those fibers, and it is getting into those fibers, trust me, okay? Or, once again, stop where it's tense, stand upright, extend, turn in, right? You can mess around with it and really start releasing, right? But like I said, love these when it comes to releasing pressure. Now, the second one, when we talk about adductors, there's something that I want to add here, okay? And that is something that a lot of people miss, and that's releasing. If you think, let's just call them Barbie cracks, right? Or Ken cracks for guys. But when you have the inguinal line here, a lot of this gets really tensed up and tight. Okay, so if you think about adductors pull your leg posterior, inferior, abs pull superior. Basically, it's just imagine it ripping like this. If adductors are tight, right, one pulls this way, and the other, and your abs pull that way. So it can create like hernia situations, right? You see a lot of that when you have adductor issues and you start getting ab issues. So it's important to actually also go down here. I'll just use the rad ball for this, actually get in deeper, right? We're going to go on that line, and you'll be surprised at how tight this is, okay? It kind of looks like I'm humping these lacrosse balls, which is fabulous. But at the same time, on that wall, like you'll be, like it really, really is tight. And when you release that, it will help with that connection, like I said, adductor and abs, because they all connect into that same area where there's a ton of fascia, okay? So I'm just finding these different angles. Whew. And releasing, okay? So when we're doing adductors, I always like for you to think also releasing this ab area. Okay, so the third one is going to be our piriformis, okay, which just a cool name, but it's one that tends to be aggravates low back tightness and low back pain a lot of times. Okay, so the reason why we're not going to use, and you can use the foam roller for this, the truth is you just can't get in as deep on this. So we're going to use like I said, you can go tennis ball if you don't want as much pressure. I'm going to use rad balls. If it was just one, it would be a lacrosse ball. But I'm going to cross my legs over, okay, and then so basically I'm putting it over my knee, bending this knee, and then I'm finding, okay, there's going to be a lot of stuff tight in here, okay? So if you think about that hip socket, that hip joint, okay, there's going to be a lot of things tight around there. And what we're doing is we're just loosening that up and going deep. And trust me, you will not find, it won't take you long to find something that's quite a bit painful. And usually, like I said, the more painful it is, the tighter you are. You control how much pressure you're putting on this, okay? But when I'm releasing this, and it's opening up my glutes and my hips, it can really help releasing the low back, right? So it's not putting as much tension on the low back. I'm used to this a little bit. This is not pleasant, but for the cameras, you know, trying to make sure that you do this. So I'm not trying to be an agonizing thing. But even just that really, really helps. And you'll see just those 3 drills and how you open up those glutes, you'll instantly, like for instance, I came in and I was a little tight in my low back. I'm already feeling better, and I haven't even gone through the full 3 drills. Now, I would spend at least 30 seconds on each side, up to a minute and a half, even 2 minutes, if you're really, really tight and you're really working on it. But don't just go through that in like 10, 15 seconds and think that you've done the work. All right, so number 4 is going to be a thoracic mobility drill. Now, here's the thing. This is a hip mobility circuit, but because most people are so tight and wound up in their upper backs, it does influence the tightness of the low back, which obviously also influences the hips because it's all connected. So hip flexors are tight, low back is tight. So there's this one drill, a combination that I want to put in here that is going to help, and we're doing it first, so when we go into all our hip stuff, it's actually going to help, okay? So now this is the reason why I love this rad ball, okay, is because what we can do here is, remember where our upper back thoracic spine starts, right? We don't want to go too low. We want to start up higher, a couple inches below the shoulder blades, and start doing this mobilization drill. Because these are already, you can glue together, I mean, you can tape together 2 tennis balls, 2 lacrosse balls, But that's why I love this, because they're already put together, right? And we're going to find that mid part of our back, okay? And so think about it this way. We could put a little foam roller here, but I'm just going to go ahead and do it without one, right? We're keeping our abs tight. And from here, we do like these mini little crunches. So come up and so that way we stay tight here, so we're mobilizing, getting those vertebrae over the ball. Do about 3 to 5 reps, and then we're going to go up a couple inches, and then you just repeat. And it's not unfamiliar for you to hear a pop in the back and stuff, right? So you'd go up 3 times. Remember, nothing on the neck. Shouldn't be mobilizing the neck at all. You can just do about 3 run-throughs, and it'll actually help you get into extension more before we do this drill. This is why I said it's a combination here, okay? So we run through that. We use a foam roller. So the reason we use a foam roller here is so that we don't collapse and rotate our low back. So our low back is nice and, I would say, stable here. Put our arm out. We're going to go and, so this is the windmill drill. So I'm going to move this a little bit so I'm not hitting it. So I'm going to make sure that I'm moving from the right area by first, same thing, we could have a foam roller here. I'm going to slide my hand across, scapula comes out, and then I'm going to follow this hand around the world, and I'm looking at it the whole time, as much as I can, as far as I can go, and then come across. And just do that for about 5, 6 reps. Every single time, I should be able to go down a little bit more, maybe even touch the ground, and you're going to feel, obviously, a stretch in the chest as well. But what we're doing is, I also actually sometimes like to press this leg down so it keeps me nice and tight, so that all my movement is coming from my upper back, right? So we're working on upper back extension and rotation, which a lot of people are missing, which also then drives that lower body. Okay, so we're not going to focus a ton, like I said, on upper body mobilization, upper back mobilization right now, but I did want to throw in this drill because it tends to help a ton when it comes to mobilizing, opening up the hips with the drills that we're about to do next. So this number 5 drill is a combination drill. Now, if you watch any of the videos, you know I love movement, I love combinations, I love flow. So this is another one of those drills where if you were somewhere, at a flag football game or a basketball game, and somebody said, hey, listen, there's one drill that you can do. There's just one warm-up drill that you can do. Like, this is one of the ones that I would say, hey, do this one, right? So we're going to go into a hip flexion. So basically, I'm standing tall. I'm going to pull my knee up to my chest, breathe out, fire this glute, so we're getting the movement from the right places, and stand up on my toes. So it's, and I'm going to drop down into this lunge. Okay, so when I drop down into a lunge, what I like to do is the elbow to instep. So I'm going to keep this leg locked out. If you can go low, I'm keeping my back as flat as I can, so all my movement's from the hips. Then I'm going to put the hand on the outside, drive that heel back, and get this toe up. Now, if you can lock it out, that's great. Okay, in this position, I also like to come out to the outside, and to the inside. So I'm actually getting different angles. So the more I move, I'm actually getting adductor stretch here. If I come here, hamstring. If I come here, lateral side, even IT band. And then basically drop, come back out of it, and I'd repeat it. And we go 3 to 4 reps per side. Right, so I like I said, angles and understanding that as the body moves, I'm hitting different tissues from different sides. And there's no better way to do it than actually to try it. But like I said, walk yourself to the inside, walk yourself to the outside. You'll see the calf, the hamstrings, for all those different areas are getting nice and, I would say, stretched and mobilized. And like I said, I like controlled movements so that we can build strength in those areas. All right, we're right back. And here's the thing, I'm in my sexy pose. This is actually a drill that I got from Joe DeFranco years and years ago. Used it, stopped using it, and we came back to it because the truth is like sometimes you get veered off of something that's working, and you hear somebody say, that might not be good, and you stop doing it, but it's always made everybody feel a lot better. And this is the roll over into a V-sit, okay? Really loosens up, and the thing is, it like opens up the spine too, loosens up the spine. Obviously, this may be a drill somebody may not be able to do if they have some type of restrictions, but pretty much most everybody can. So what we're gonna do is when we roll over, keep our hands down. We roll over. If you can tap the ground, and then we're coming up, and then basically going V, like a wide V, and you can even like grab and get yourself into more neutral. Obviously, you'll feel the hamstrings and adductors more. And then we're gonna go back again, okay? And try to get more every single time that we do this. Okay? Like I said, you can, if somebody's really tight in their hamstrings, really tight in their back, they would just bend their knees more the more that they're going back versus the more mobile and flexible you are. You could actually completely lock them out on the way back, right? You'd go anywhere from 10 to 12 reps. Doesn't need to be super fast, right? Just feeling every single time getting a little more opened up. Like I said, when you come out here, you actually can push out a little more every single time and keep yourself upright. I don't mind here if you're rolling over a little bit, but that's a great, great drill for opening up hammies, low back, hips. All right, so this next drill is the rocking frog stretch, or the frog stretch. I initially got this from Pavel years and years ago. But what we're doing on the frog stretch, as you can see, and the thing is, most people are very, very tight in their adductors. We talked about that before, about rolling them out. But now when it comes to actually stretching them out, you probably actually want to be on a pad versus, I would say, just a floor that's like, because you're going to feel this probably on your knees. So being on a pad or on turf is a lot easier on this. But this is where people tend to be very, very tight, and because you are, it's also going to, I would say, drive some low back tightness, pain, hip tightness, if you can't go low in the squats and things like that. But it is I would say, challenging drill. Many people just get into this position. You can see how my toes are kind of like turned out here. And this will be challenging in itself, depending on how far somebody can go. The other key here is that whether you're down on your elbows or upright, that we push into the ground somewhat, okay? The reason for this is that core is engaged, okay? So I'm going to be down here as I'm in a plank position. I'm going to push away. So there's a big difference between sitting here, and having a core that's not tight, or driving here and actually having a good position. So all our movement comes from where we want it to. So we're going to drive back, pushing the ground, and coming back. And you're going to feel certain things that you probably haven't felt in a long time, right? It's like I said, there's a difference between a stretching type of pain versus a hurt type of pain. So every single time you go back, I also like to breathe out here in these positions. So you'll usually be able to sit into that a little bit more, coming back out of it. And at the end, you can come here and just start moving the hips left and right, mobilizing. Like I said, try to make sure that you're creating tension, stiffening your core up. Doesn't have to be crazy, but enough to where my spine is neutral, okay? Same thing, you could run through that and get out of it slowly, right? That's the key also. Run through that anywhere 8 to 10 times. Like I said, you can play around with it a little bit. Tight positions. Make sure you got some tension. Breathe out fully through your mouth. Inhale in through your nose. Try to sit in a little bit more. All right, so this next one is a combination, and I love combination movements because, like I said, moving through different ranges of motion from different positions is very applicable into the real world when we train, especially if we're doing any type of sports. But this combo is a single leg downward dog into a Spider-Man lunge. So you'll see how we're going through a lot of different things here, right? So from this position, we go into our push-up position, and then we're going to come up, drive that heel into the ground, extend this other leg, make sure our hips are not turned out, so turn them and line them with the ground, feel a big stretch, in your hamstrings, your calves. And from here, we're going to come back down here, bring this foot up. If you have to, if you're tight, you can grab it, put it into the position. And now, you can see how we're nice and tall. Now, here's the cues here, okay? My left knee, I'm going to push it into my right shoulder. My left heel, I'm going to push it out. So my knee's locked out, I'm squeezing my glutes, right? I'm opening up my chest, so I'm getting all the stretches from the right positions. Hold that for a second. Then this knee can start dropping down, which is a different type of stretch now, okay? And from here, staying nice and braced while I'm pushing in, I'm going to open up, okay? Step back into it, bring it back up. We'd go other side. Push it up, line the hips, drive that heel out into the ceiling. Come back down, right? And we'd repeat the process. So even just 3 to 4, 5 max on each side, that drill in itself can do wonders for, like I said, hamstrings, open up the hips, hip flexors, firing the glutes up, open up the upper back. All right, so that's a great combination movement that we're adding in. All right, so the next drill is, you probably heard of fire hydrants or hip circles, and essentially what this is. Now we're gonna do a little bit of a twist to it, and not even just a twist to it, but after coming back from the FRC Functional Range Conditioning certification, we've kind of changed this up just a little bit in how I'd like to do this, right? So we're going into our all fours positional, you hear kind of like quadruped in this one. And one of the big mistakes just starting off here is that people tend to be loose and saggy, right? So they're just kind of like hanging on their lats here versus pushing the ground away, getting nice and tight, getting a neutral spine, okay? Because the thing is, we want to make sure we're moving from the hips. If we're here and start moving, a lot of the movement's coming from a low back. Our hip is not in a good position, like the femur and the socket is not in a good position. So we got to start here, make sure we're constantly pushing the ground away. Make sure that when we're moving, right, when we're moving the hip, that you don't start compensating with the neck, with the elbow, shifting the hip to the side, because then we're not getting really movement from where we want it to, okay? So we're going to start here and get tight, okay? Neutral and tight. Now we're going to start going one direction and coming out and bringing it back down. Now, this is the tweak that we've started making. At the first 5 circles each way, so think about it, we're going to go, if we're coming this way, I'm going to get this hip circle, get as much range of motion as we can. 5 one way, 5 the other way. Then we're going to go each way, spending about 30 seconds. Imagine that somebody's actually resisting your leg, okay? So what I mean by that is as we're here, we're slowly creating tension, full range of motion there, and I'm slowly moving to the side, creating tension, and bringing it down, right? So I would actually take even longer. So it'd take me 30 seconds to go once, 30 seconds at least to go back. Okay, now what's the reason there? We want to make sure not only that we have range of motion, but that we start building strength through that range of motion. So if I have a client and they're in this position, right, I may even start applying some really light resistance on his knee, so he starts pushing it. At the top, work isometric, right, going back, because most people can't even own those positions, so they'll just like loop through them real quick, right? So the leg will kind of just be swinging. And I want to make sure that you own that position. The nervous system kind of starts communicating like, hey, I can be in this position strong, and starts building some tissue. Right? There's a big difference versus just quickly swinging the leg around, not knowing where your movement's coming from, right? Or slowly moving through that range of motion, owning it, coming back down, creating some tension, and getting a lot more out of it, okay? So I'd have you consider, start doing that. Watch the difference, but also watch how much better you feel. It's challenging, but how much better you feel after you're done with it. All right, so we're back with the area of the woods that I'm from, Cossack squats from Russia, or at least something like that. But the Cossacks, incredible exercise, or to say mobility drill, but can be challenging. That's why I'm going to also show a regression on this. With the Cossack, we start a little wider out. You can start, you don't have to be all the way upright. Bent knees, making sure your toes are pointing out. From here, the key is what we're going to do is we're going to go to one side, and you want to make sure that the heel's on the ground and that the knee is tracking the toe. You'll see a lot of this, people collapsing. So you want to make sure that I'm aligned. Now what helps with that is having this arm actually push out, because then I can also create some tension in the abs and get upright. On this side, we're going to go toe up, and what you'll feel is adductors, right? Not only hamstrings, but adductor stretch. And you can see how far I'm sitting into this and staying upright. Now, a lot of people won't be able to do this. You can have support on the ground as well, okay? If you can, and I'll show another regression in just a second, okay? So even if you could only go this slow, that's fine. We're just drilling it, we're just working it. From here, come back up, still in that bent position, and I just go to the other side. Same thing, heel down, toe up. And actually, like Steve Maxwell used to call this the archer. And the reason for it is because you'd actually open up, right? And I actually really like that because this elbow goes into the knee, like you're pulling a bow and arrow, right? And this is making me open up in my chest. So I'm not like really rounded, I'm opening up in my chest, right? Which creates the positions that I want. Coming back up, and we would just go, for instance, about 5 per side. Now, like I said, it's pretty challenging. There's a couple of things we can do. We can use boxes. If I was sitting in front of the rig, or I should be standing in front of the rig, I'll just have people use the pole to create some stability and support for the abs. So I could be here once again, right? So now I have more support, right? I could be giving myself some tension, some support here, keeping myself upright, only going as low as I need to, and just moving around on that. Like I said, if you're in front of a squat rack or a rig, also, we just keep drilling that, and I'm a big fan of control. Like I said, rather than just dropping down into it, it's controlling down into it. And when we're here, controlling up out of it, slowly to the other side. Because like we were talking about in the fire hydrants, right? When we own those positions, that's what creates that strength through flexibility, through range of motion, which is mobility, so that in sports or anything else that we face that, we can actually stabilize it. Now this next exercise / drill is a stretch. Somewhat old school, but still something that we constantly go back to, and it is a piriformis glute stretch. We're going to do 2 different things. So we're going to cross over, just like you've seen us do before, and from here, I like to obviously push this down, push this knee down. Only thing you want to make sure is that, you know, if somebody's very, very, very tight, if they're doing this, that they're not getting any pain in the knee, okay? So in that situation, like I said, you kind of want to make sure you're grabbing the whole knee and pushing it down, okay? And from this position, now with the piriformis stretch, I'm actually okay with leaning over, okay? Most things we always say, like stay upright, keep a neutral spine, things like that. In this one, we can actually come over, grab the knee, pull ourselves down to get that stretch fully, okay? And another thing I got from Joe D here too is if you want to, if you're okay and you're good with getting some soft tissue work here, you can dig your knee into your your elbow into your adductors, and mine are pretty damn tight, so you can do like 2 on 1, pull yourself down. You can see how I'm digging that elbow in, getting a lovely stretch while breaking up some tissue, pulling myself in. We'd hold that anywhere from 20 to 30 seconds. And when we're going to grab the knee, and go, always think opposite shoulder. So now we do want to be upright, right? So we do want to have a nice and tall spine. I'm going to pull across and get that glute stretch. So we're going, think knee, opposite elbow, and then opening up. All right, so I'm opening up. Same thing, holding for 20, 30 seconds and switching up sides. All right, so this next one of my favorites, or should I say one that I tend to feel like does a ton as far as releasing my low back, is a hip flexor / rectus femoris stretch. Okay, so in this position, we just want to make sure that the form on this is right. You can be on something more comfortable than in a wooden box like a bench or have a pad on the back. But the tendency in these stretches is this, right? It's the hips go forward and I lean back, and now I have basically all this movement like hyperextension in my low back, which is what we don't want. So what I really like to do is to do positional breathing in this situation, meaning I'm going to fully exhale. Get my neck in a neutral position. So what happened now, my spine is nice and straight. I automatically feel this big stretch in my hip flexor, right? So I'm neutral. I feel a huge stretch in my hip flexor. Now from here, if I squeeze my glutes and actually lean back a little bit with this neutral spine, I get it to open up even more. Now, so if we want to add something, right, to get that psoas, is we're going to lean across. We can go both hands up, keep making sure the rib cage is down, and lean across to get the extra stretch. We're also stretching out the obliques, some QL, right? And the thing is, there's a couple ways to do it. Hold it for time, or what I like to do is come back, breathe out again, breathe in again, stretch in again, and just do it for 5 breaths per side, right? Because then we're doing a couple of things. We're not only opening up those hips, we're also working on diaphragmatic breathing and getting full exhalation, right? Which is a double whammy, but this is a great, great drill to implement to get your hips moving better. Last but not least, something that we've added in, especially if people can do it, like this can be somewhat challenging, is this movement where we're going to go from this internal kind of external rotation position, okay, and we flip the hips first. So it's like we flip the hips. You want to try to keep the spine as neutral as possible. And I'm okay with, like I said, support if someone can't do it yet. So we're supporting, moving, dropping, and from there, we're going to come up and pop through. So, and I also like to breathe out. So everything's in the glutes, opening up the hips, controlling back down through the hips, and then just rotate. Firing, coming back down. And what we'll start adding sometimes then to also like engage the core is move and starting to obviously, because the thing is the more you're open, now you can control that, right? So I'm just doing it now with working in core, moving the hips, and popping back up, okay? Staying nice and tight. Like I said, there's a lot of fun ways then to start implementing this into a warm-up where we can actually flow from one drill into another. And at the beginning, this may take you a little bit, right? New drills, new exercises, but it's going to take you about 10 to 12 minutes once you start getting in the groove of this. And I promise you, this might be the most valuable 10 to 12 minutes that you add into your training program, and see how much better you feel, how much better you move, how things that were tight, especially your hips, because like I said, this is the hip circuit, are going to feel way looser. You'll have more, feel the muscles in the right places and not wake up beat up from a training session. But just like anything, you got to be consistent and persistent with this, and give it like a month of doing it 5 days a week and see how much it improves. Vigorous 13, plug it into your program, baby.